The repair bay of Arcadia Station smelled like ozone, engine grease, and something faintly metallic that Ryland Cross had never been able to place. Probably something alien. He wiped sweat from his forehead, leaving a black streak across his temple, and gave the humming warp core a final, satisfied glance. The quantum stabilizers now pulsed in a steady rhythm. Job well done. That should hold you together for another few solar cycles, he muttered to the Taurian freighter. Not that it would thank him. 6 months ago, he'd been tightening bolts in a Mars orbital dock. Then interstellar mechanics threw him a contract he couldn't refuse, triple pay to babysit broken ships at the galaxy's edge. They had pitched it as a year of adventure. What they didn't mention was that Arcadia Station had 0 humans and 17 species that found him either exotic, suspicious, or just plain weird. Humans were still new to the galactic community. Their homeworld, Earth, had earned a fearsome reputation. A high-gravity, weather-twisting death trap populated by adaptable apex predators. Ryland thought that was hilarious. He was just a guy who fixed stuff. He packed up his tools and stepped into the station's central corridor, where the artificial twilight cycle was beginning. Dim amber lights cast long shadows over buildings made of curved alloy and glowing stone. Creatures of every imaginable shape bustled about, some humanoid, some insectoid, some just plain baffling. And then he saw her. She stood head and shoulders above the crowd, nearly 8 feet tall, her golden bronze skin gleaming in the low light. A jet-black bodysuit clung to her athletic frame, designed less for modesty and more for movement. But it was her hair that froze him in place. A cascade of silver-white strands that shimmered like liquid stars, flowing down her back in slow motion, as if gravity hadn't quite decided how to handle her. Her head turned. Emerald green eyes locked with his. Ryland blinked, startled. The unspoken rule on Arcadia was clear: mind your business. But something about her gaze held him in place like a tractor beam. She walked straight toward him, each step confident and silent. When she stopped in front of him, he had to crane his neck to meet her eyes. "You are the human engineer," she said, not as a question but a statement. "That's me. Ryland Cross. At your service." He extended his hand, then awkwardly half retracted it. Would she even understand the gesture? To his surprise, she took it. Her fingers were long and warm, their structure oddly familiar despite the size difference. "I am Kayla Rhine of House Rhine," she said. "My transport is malfunctioning. The local techs lack sufficient understanding of hybrid plasma drives." "I'll take a look," Ryland said, trying to keep his tone neutral. "Also, for what it's worth, your hair, it's stunning. Like moonlight made liquid." He winced the second the words left his mouth. Complimenting an alien noblewoman? What was he thinking?
Kayla tilted her head slightly. Her pupils dilated. Her expression unreadable. Then she said, "Your observation is noted, Human Cross." She handed him a small data disk. "This contains the coordinates. First light tomorrow." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Ryland with his tools and a rising sense that he might have just stepped into something deep. He shook it off. Fixed her transport the next morning. No big deal, just some misaligned flux regulators. By nightfall, he was elbows deep in a Centauran cargo hauler and had nearly forgotten about Kayla's otherworldly presence. That is, until she showed up in the shadows. One moment he was walking toward his quarters through the stone corridors, the next, he was pinned gently but firmly against a wall by 7 feet and 10 inches of glowing bronze and silver hair. "You have awakened the binding," Kayla said, her voice low and intimate. "The what?" "The binding," she repeated. "Among the Valari, to complement one's essence. What you called hair, is to initiate the sacred mating ritual." Ryland's mouth opened. Then closed. Then opened again. "So, what, you think we're engaged?" Not engaged, she said, her lips curling into what might have been a smile. Bound. Our pairing is acknowledged by my house. Hold on, he said quickly. Back on Earth, saying someone's hair looks nice is just being polite. I didn't know it meant anything. Kayla studied him in silence, then slowly released her grip. Even in the soft glow of Arcadia's ambient lighting, her bronze skin practically radiated. Our essence is sacred, she said. To compliment it is to declare recognition of compatibility. You have made a claim. I have accepted. Well, I didn't mean to. Her expression softened. You did not know. That, in itself, is a rare kind of honesty. Before he could reply, a third voice joined them. Kayla Rhine of House Rhine. Is this the claimant? Rylan turned, and immediately regretted it. The male Valari who approached was nearly 9 feet tall, with skin the color of dark burnished copper and silver hair clipped short like a soldier's. His armor shifted subtly, alive with energy. Commander Threx Valen, Kayla said coolly. This is the human who initiated the binding. Threx circled Rylan like a curious predator. So this is the Earthborn. His tone dripped with disdain. Small. Fragile. And yet, persistent, it seems. Hey, I'm standing right here, Rylan said. Threx raised one brow. It speaks. Kayla shot him a warning glare. He speaks. And the binding is recognized. Threx's lip curled. That can be contested. Oh come on, Rylan groaned. Is there some kind of space lawyer I can talk to? There is tradition, Threx said. And tradition demands a challenge. The human must face a champion of my choosing. If he survives, the binding stands. If not, Kayla considers better candidates.
Rylan opened his mouth to protest, but Kayla put a hand on his shoulder. He was unaware of our custom. I propose a compromise. 7 cycles. He learns our ways. If he still accepts, the challenge proceeds, with full knowledge. Threx's eyes narrowed. 7. No more. As the towering commander walked away, Kayla turned to Rylan. What just happened? He asked. Politics, she said. Commander Threx seeks to control House Rhine. He sees you as an obstacle. Me? I'm just a mechanic. Kayla's almost smile returned. Not anymore. Rylan didn't sleep that night, not really. It was hard to relax when you were accidentally betrothed to an alien noble and had just been volunteered for a life-or-death duel with a warrior twice your size. That sort of thing tended to keep a guy awake. He spent most of the night pacing the unfamiliar walls of Kayla's sanctuary quarters. Unlike the sterile, metallic feel of the rest of Arcadia Station, her home was alive, literally. Bioluminescent plants glowed in soft hues of green and violet. Furniture curved like it had grown into shape rather than been manufactured. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and ozone. Drink this, Kayla said, handing him a vessel containing a glowing blue liquid. It will help. Help with what, exactly? Rylan asked, eyeing the drink. Understanding. It enhances neural absorption. Perfectly safe for your species. I checked. Well, if you checked. The taste surprised him, like honey, electricity, and mint all at once. It slid down his throat and sent a warm pulse of clarity through his limbs. So, this challenge. What am I supposed to do? Punch someone in the chest until they give up. Kayla sat across from him, perfectly poised. Ritual combat among the Valari is not always lethal, but it is demanding. Strength. Strategy. Endurance. You are not expected to win through brute force, but through adaptability. Which is lucky, because I have exactly 0 brute force. Your biology says otherwise, she replied, tapping on a translucent tablet. Your species evolved in hostile conditions. High gravity, unstable climate. You're faster than we are. Your muscle density is higher. You recover more quickly. Even now, your cardiovascular performance is beyond that of most Valari warriors. Well, Rylan said, rubbing his neck, back on Earth I was considered just average. Kayla smiled faintly. On a death world, perhaps. Here. You're extraordinary. The words hit differently. Not as flattery, but as truth. Maybe he wasn't as out of his depth as he thought. Still, he said, I'm a fixer. Not a fighter. Then we train, she said simply. The next day, Kayla brought him to a facility deep inside the station. Massive stone arches framed the chamber, filled with obstacle courses, melee weapon racks, and even holographic sparring simulators. We begin with basics, she said, initiating the warm-up sequence. You must learn how your body works in our gravity. How to control your breath. Conserve motion. The next 3 hours nearly killed him. Every movement, every strike, every reaction was measured and adjusted. Kayla pushed him harder than anyone ever had. But she also adapted quickly to his limits, tailoring exercises to his strengths. You're learning fast, she said between rounds. Or dying slowly, Rylan replied, panting. By the 4th day, his muscles ached constantly. But his dodges were tighter. His strikes had weight. Something was shifting, not just physically, but mentally. He was starting to believe he might survive. And then Threx Valen showed up. The commander walked in flanked by 2 armored guards, the atmosphere in the training room immediately growing colder. I see the human is preparing, Threx said, his voice coated in disdain. Good. The council has agreed to advance the challenge. First light tomorrow. Kayla's face tightened. We were granted 7 cycles. New information has surfaced, Threx replied smoothly. The human has already initiated elements of the binding. Rylan blinked. How would you know that? Kayla's eyes narrowed. You've been spying on us. Threx didn't deny it. The future of House Rhine is too important to leave to an unverified anomaly. That's not enough time. Rylan argued. Then perhaps, Threx said coolly, you should have considered the consequences of your actions. He turned to leave but paused. My champion is eager to meet you. The door slid closed behind him, leaving silence in his wake. He's trying to break you, Kayla said, her voice quiet. Force a collapse before the fight even begins. Great. Good strategy. It's working. She turned to face him, emerald eyes fierce. Then we break him first. That night, they trained harder than ever. Kayla showed him how to channel momentum, how to strike weak points in the Valari anatomy. Our joints have limited flexion. We're not built for long engagements. You are. But it wasn't just combat. In the quiet moments between drills, she told him about the Valari's fading numbers, how fewer than 500 remained, scattered across the stars. Their genetic degradation had reached a tipping point. Compatible mates were rare. When you complimented me, it wasn't just cultural, she said, placing his hand over her chest. It was biological. Something inside us aligned. Rylan swallowed. So this is about reproduction. She didn't flinch. It's about survival. But it's also about choice. And I choose to fight for that. Before he could respond, the lights flickered. Then died. A deep red glow took over, emergency systems humming online. What now? Rylan said. Kayla was already at the control panel. Environmental sabotage. The oxygen's dropping. Temperature rising. Rylan felt it immediately. His breath grew shallow. His skin prickled with heat. This is what Threx wants. To weaken you. This is a simulation of Valari homeworld conditions. What you'll face in the arena. Then what do we do? He gasped. Kayla looked at him with a grim smile. We adapt. As if on cue, the door opened, and in scuttled a multi-limbed, iridescent alien. Atmospheric sabotage. No finesse. Definitely Threx, it chirped. Kayla straightened. Zin Alo. Perfect timing. Zin moved with astonishing speed, tapping multiple interfaces at once. Redirecting flow. Boosting filtration. Human, breathe now. Air rushed in. Ryland gulped it down greedily. So this is the human making all the commotion, Zin said, eyes swiveling toward him. Smaller than expected. Thanks, Ryland wheezed. Heard that one before. Zin cackled. Threx is overreaching. He wants to control all viable unions. Many of us disagree. You're part of a resistance? Rylan asked. Call us, alternatives, Zin replied. And I have something for you. He scuttled to a bench and returned with a sleek armband. Environmental compensator. Regulates your body's temperature, oxygen intake. A gift from a friend. Thank you, Rylan said, slipping it on. And this, Zin added, handing him a small disc. Trigger it once. 30 seconds of Earth normal atmosphere. Use it wisely. Rylan stared at it. This could change everything. Kayla put a hand on his shoulder. It will. And for the first time, Rylan Cross started to believe he might actually win. The sun had not yet risen over Arcadia Station when the arena began to fill. Word had spread, of the challenge, of the sabotage, of the human who might change the fate of the Valari people. Representatives from a dozen species arrived before dawn, their eyes bright with curiosity, support, or silent judgment. Some wore subtle badges with the symbol of Zin Alo's compensator design, a quiet sign of allegiance. Inside the preparation chamber, Rylan Cross sat with his head bowed, the environmental compensator on his wrist glowing a steady blue. He felt calm, strangely so. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the soft rhythm of Kayla's hand stroking down his back as she sat beside him. Or maybe, for the first time, he had something worth fighting for. Your armband is calibrated, Zin chirped, checking readings on a floating holopad. Oxygen conversion is optimal. Cooling systems holding steady. I also added a slight reflex boost, just in case. Rylan glanced up. Reflex boost? Don't worry. Within legal tolerances. Zin gave a conspiratorial wink with two of his stalked eyes. Kayla stepped in, holding a small data crystal. And this, she said, sliding it into the control hub. The last piece. What's on it? Rylan asked. Truth, she said. Genetic compatibility data. Between Valari and other species, humans included. Threx has been hiding it. If we lose today, it may never see daylight. If we win. Rylan nodded. Then let's win. The doors to the arena slid open with a hiss. They stepped into a pit carved from blackstone and polished mineral, a space older than the station itself. Tiered seating rose in concentric circles, filled with spectators of all shapes and colors. Above them, a platform held the Valari Council and, of course, Commander Threx Valen. Beside Threx stood a figure even larger than he was. Jorik Myr. The champion of House Valen. A living wall of muscle and ritual scars, Jorik's body bore the history of 100 battles. His bronze skin gleamed with sweat. His silver hair was tied in a high warrior's knot. And his eyes, icy gray, unreadable, locked onto Rylan with the precision of a hunter sizing up prey. Counselor Elvian Soar rose from his seat, voice amplified by the arena's acoustics. Today we witness a challenge of binding, he announced. Commander Threx Valen has contested the human Rylan Cross's right to bond with Kayla Rhine of House Rhine. Combat will continue until submission or incapacitation. Lethal force is prohibited. Jorik stepped forward, planting his heavy staff into the stone. Rylan followed, fists clenched, eyes scanning every inch of the arena. "You're the one," Jorik said quietly, his deep voice carrying only to Rylan. "The mechanic from the death world." "That's me," Rylan replied. "No pressure." Jorik tilted his head. "I didn't expect you to look normal." "Disappointed?" "Surprised," Jorik admitted. "But I'm not here to kill you. That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" "Symbolism." The moment hung there for a beat too long. Then Jorik moved. The staff came down in a wide arc, fast, brutal. Rylan barely dodged, rolling to the side, the stone cracking where he'd just been. Jorik's blows were heavy, deliberate. Too deliberate. Each swing seemed telegraphed, predictable. "You're holding back," Rylan muttered between dodges. "Not holding back," Jorik replied. "Controlling the narrative." They continued circling, the illusion of combat playing out before thousands. To the untrained eye, it looked like a fierce duel. But Rylan could see it now. Jorik was stalling, waiting for something. "Why are you helping me?" Rylan whispered. "Because Threx is wrong," Jorik said, low and quick. "Isolation won't save us." "You might." In the council seats, Threx's expression remained unreadable. But his fingers were white on the railing, gripping tightly. Suddenly, the temperature spiked. The air thinned. Rylan gasped. Threx was manipulating the environment, just as they feared. Zin's armband glowed red, trying to compensate. Still, the heat wrapped around him like a vice, the oxygen too thin to sustain his momentum. Now, Threx wanted him to fall. Rylan reached for the emergency disc on his belt and thumbed it. For 30 seconds, the air cleared. The temperature dropped. Earth normal. Rylan inhaled deeply, his only window. "Now," he whispered to Jorik. The Valari warrior grabbed Rylan and, with a roar that shook the arena, hurled him across the pit, straight toward Threx's dais. Rylan hit hard but rolled, coming up beside the control terminal Zin had marked in red. He slapped the override key. Holographic data flooded the arena's screens, line after line of environmental sabotage logs, hidden compatibility reports, and Threx's personal authorizations. The crowd gasped. The council stood. Kayla, still on the sidelines, stepped forward. "These are the facts," she said, voice unwavering. "Commander Threx has manipulated our traditions, withheld research, and endangered our future, all to preserve his own control." Threx lunged for the console. But before he could reach it, Jorik landed between him and Rylan. "I stand with the human," he declared, his voice booming. Chaos erupted in the stands. Half the council shouted. The other half stood frozen in place. Councillor Soar raised his hand. "Enough." Silence fell. "This challenge is concluded," he declared. "And Commander Threx is hereby stripped of his authority pending full investigation." Guards moved toward Threx as the arena erupted in cheers. Not just Valari, but dozens of other species now stood, applauding. Kayla rushed to Rylan, her arms around him, holding him close as his knees buckled with exhaustion. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." Rylan coughed, smiling weakly. "Not alone." 3 months after the arena erupted in uproar and truth, the diplomatic ship Unity's Promise slid into orbit over Earth. Rylan Cross stood at the viewport, watching his homeworld swell in the distance, blue oceans, green continents, clouds spiraling over its surface like brushstrokes on a cosmic canvas. It looked both familiar and impossibly distant. So much had changed. Still beautiful, Kayla Ryan murmured, stepping beside him. She slipped her hand into his. Her bronze skin was warm as ever, her emerald eyes reflecting the planet's light. Her figure was unmistakably Valari, but her heart, Rylan had learned, was something deeper. Fierce. Loyal. Curious. And now, his. "I'm not going to lie," he said, glancing at her, bringing home an 8-foot-tall alien wife wasn't exactly part of the original life plan. She gave him that almost smile, the one he now recognized as real affection, hidden behind Valari composure. Yet here we are. Their arrival at New Geneva Spaceport was nothing short of monumental. A full welcoming delegation waited, Earth diplomats, media swarms, envoys from the Galactic Assembly. Rylan barely recognized himself in the mirror that morning, clean-shaven, dressed in a fusion of Earth formal wear and Valari ceremonial cloth, his once scorched overalls traded for ambassadorial silks. But it was Kayla who stole the spotlight. Her ceremonial gown, silver-threaded, with the ancient sigils of House Rhine, flowed like a living constellation as she walked beside him. And the slight curve of her abdomen beneath the fabric did not go unnoticed. Yes. That too had changed. The first viable human, Valari pregnancy. A new era, born not in a laboratory but from a cultural accident and a compliment about hair. As the two approached the Earth ambassador, an older woman with streaks of white through her hair, she extended her hand to Kayla. "On behalf of the United Earth Coalition, welcome. We are honored." Kayla accepted the handshake with the grace of nobility. "And you," the ambassador said, turning to Rylan, "you've become quite the story." He grinned. "Didn't mean to. I was just trying to be polite." "They say it all started because you complimented her hair," the woman said, raising a brow. "Yup," Rylan nodded. "Most important haircut I've ever commented on." Kayla rolled her eyes softly. The days that followed were a blur of formal receptions, scientific briefings, cultural exhibitions, and endless interviews. Kayla stood beside him through it all, fielding questions with calculated calm. When asked about the child, she offered only this. "Our bond was instinct, but our choice was deliberate. Life is a shared creation." Behind closed doors, they found brief moments of peace. Rylan took Kayla to Earth's oceans, let her feel the spray of saltwater, the pull of tides. She marveled at thunder, tasted ice cream for the first time, mint chocolate chip became her favorite, and declared mountain sunsets acceptable. "Your world is loud," she said once. "Chaotic. But very much alive." In return, she introduced Earth's top scientists to Valari biotech. Their regenerative architecture. Their memory-infused plants. Their neural harmonics. A slow but profound knowledge exchange began, bridging worlds. Then, one night, Kayla woke him up. "Rylan," she whispered. "It's time." He blinked. "What? Time for what?" She took his hand and placed it on her abdomen. And there, beneath warm skin, something shifted. Moved. New life. Their son. Medical teams were already on standby, a hybrid delivery plan in place at a facility built in cooperation with Valari architects. The birth itself was complicated but successful. When the child was placed into Rylan's arms for the first time, bronze-skinned, with tiny fingers, a halo of light blonde hair, and eyes that shimmered between blue and emerald, he felt something break open inside him. "Thalen," Kayla whispered. "Bridge between worlds." That's what they named him. News spread fast. The child became a symbol not just for Earth and Valari unity, but for what interspecies compatibility could mean across the galaxy. As other species began exploring their own shared genetic potentials, the floodgates opened. New councils formed. Old policies broke. Research funding skyrocketed. Valari, once on the edge of extinction, now stood at the forefront of a hopeful new chapter. 1 year to the day after the compliment that started it all, the trio, Rylan, Kayla, and baby Thalen, returned to Arcadia Station. Now officially renamed Haven Prime. They were welcomed not with suspicion or confusion, but with celebration. Zin Alo, now the station's chief administrator, met them at the shuttle bay, waving all 6 limbs. "Look at you. Returned heroes, with a prototype in tow." "His name is Thalen," Kayla said, smiling down at the child in her arms. "A perfect name," Zin chittered. Even Jorik Myr stood waiting. His loyalty to the cause had made him something of a folk hero among the Valari. His defiance of threats helped sway those on the fence. He served now as head of cultural integration. "I'm glad you made it back," he said to Rylan, clasping his hand. "And I'm even more glad you survived Kayla's training." "I didn't survive. I just faked it well." As they walked through the central plaza, Rylan marveled at how different it all looked. Segregated quarters were now mixed. Valari walked beside Taurians and Seraphians. Shops sold hybrid cuisine. Research centers buzzed with new partnerships. Back in their quarters, renovated and expanded to accommodate a child. Rylan watched as Kayla rocked Thalen to sleep beneath the glowing plants of her sanctuary. "Did you ever imagine this?" he asked softly. She turned, her silver hair catching the light the way it did that first day in the market. "No," she said. "I imagined duty. I imagined extinction. I never imagined this." He stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her waist. "All because I couldn't keep my mouth shut about your hair." Kayla laughed, quietly. "Perhaps your species' most dangerous trait is its sincerity. Or its stupidity. Or both." They kissed as the stars shone outside the window, silent witnesses to the bond between 2 impossibly different beings who had chosen, again and again, to believe in each other. So what started as an accidental compliment turned into a galactic revolution, an unexpected love story, and the birth of a bridge between 2 worlds. Rylan Cross, just a grease-stained mechanic from Earth, became the living proof that adaptation, empathy, and just a little bit of awkward sincerity could change the course of history. The Valari were no longer fading. Haven Prime had become a model for interspecies cooperation. And across the stars, new connections were forming, scientific, cultural, even romantic. Maybe the universe wasn't so big after all. Maybe all it needed was a spark. If you enjoyed this story of alien romance, cultural confusion, and a whole lot of heart, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment about what species you'd accidentally marry in space. Because let's face it, some of the best things in life start with a terrible misunderstanding. Until next time, keep looking up. And hey, compliment someone's hair today. You never know where it might take you.